Hi, welcome back to the Vintnerd. I'm Steve, and today we're going to make this USB cable. Now, you may have seen a recent video where I made a USB cable. This is not the same cable. This is actually the opposite of that cable. This is the cable we made I made last time. Hopefully you've gone and made one of these. This, if you look up the other video, is a cable that pretty much everybody wants or makes, buys, makes, whatever. And what it does is lets you use a USB power adapter for 5 volts into here to go out a 7-pin male connector into your Atari computer. And so you can power your Atari computer from a USB adapter that's new, not 40 years old, and won't break your computer. These older power supplies, well, 30, 40 years old, especially the ingot. This is not the ingot, but the aforementioned ingot definitely can fry your computer, and any old power supply can. So what we're going to do today, instead of making a cable to run your computer off of USB power, we're going to make a cable that lets you use a USB power tester to test your old Atari power supply. So we can plug in the power supply, the regular adapter power supply is a 7-pin male connector. So we got 7-pin female connector. So we can do that. And this is all 5 volts. Doesn't matter, as long as you wired it right. It's just 5 volts coming out, whatever end you've got going on here. So this is a USB-A female connector that you would see on power supplies, just like that. And we can plug in the tester, and boom, I'm getting 5.06 volts out of this power adapter. So that's pretty good. And then you can go on and use the cable that hopefully you made from the other video, plug that into your Atari, and you can see the power being drawn from the Atari. So you're testing this power supply under load, and this particular adapter, power tester, will tell you how many amps are being drawn. And that's good. So when you hook up your Atari and your disk drive and your FujiNet and your printer adapter and whatever else you're hooking into it, anything that doesn't have its own power supply that you hook into your Atari will be drawing through the Atari power supply. And then this will tell you how many amps it is drawing. Because these Atari power supplies, especially as they get old, but they made different ones, 1 amp, 1.5 amp. I thought there was a 2 amp. I'm not so sure on that anymore. I'd have to look at all the models I've got. But you don't want to go over too much. Well, you don't want to go over at all on the amperage, because then you're pushing the power supply. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and make this reverse USB power cable. Okay, first things first, we need a couple connectors. So with the regular USB power cable, again, that people want or they make or buy, whatever, this is the opposite. For this reverse USB power cable, to coin that term, I guess, we need a female 7-pin or 7-hole round-in connector. And you can get these up on eBay, Amazon, wherever. You can still find these, as opposed to like an Atari ST floppy drive cable. Those connectors are hard to come by, and the cables. So you need that, and then you need a USB-A female connector. What would typically be on a power supply, USB power supply, or like on your laptop or whatever. I find it easy that you could go out and get this USB-C to USB-A adapter that everybody with new MacBooks and laptops and whatever need for your old USB stuff. And you could just cut the end off and use that cable. So I don't know, $5, $10 in parts, something like that, $12 maybe. Depends on where you buy it and what quantity. So I already made one, and the first thing I discovered was I tried to save the USB-C end. I gave it a little more cable on it so that maybe later I can make something else with that. But I shorted myself to get the cover on here, and you can see there's a bit of a difference there. I had to cut this off in order to have this hang loose to give me enough room for the wires. So first things first, make sure you leave yourself enough cable length to get this on there, this jacket. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. We'll just put that aside for some other future project. Now I'm left with the end, and I need to go ahead and get that jacket off. You only need a little bit. Careful how you take it off so you don't cut the wires. I've got my little ways of doing this. Everybody's got their way. You're gonna find some shielding. Just pull that back, and we're gonna probably, depending on the, we'll probably, when we crimp this down, we'll crimp it down on the cable and the shielding that's surrounding this here. When you look inside, now keep in mind this is USB-C it's coming from, so whereas in the other cable in the other video we had 4 wires, we got a few more in this one. Now the color scheme, if it holds true, it's still going to be black and red as power, and white and green is data, which we don't care about, and whatever other wires you have in here, we don't care about. So let's go ahead and we're just going to cut those off, the ones we don't care about. Cut off the wires we don't care about. So leave the shielding intact. Let's go ahead and cut down the green wire. That's what MacGyver would do, right? Let's go ahead and cut down the white wire. And I've got a couple other odd ones here we don't care about. Cut those down. Okay, that leaves me with the red and the black. And then we're just gonna strip a tiny bit off of that. And you can use a wire stripper or got some other way you like to do it. And just twist the wires so they don't fray apart. So we've got this end good. Now, if you had like a USB-A extension cable or something, you could cut that in half and then you'd have pigtails on that anyways. Let's put this one aside. Now on this end, we're going to want to take the jacket and slip that on now before you forget, because you can't get it on there later. Let's do, here's a little trick for this jacket here that wants to get in my way. You could cut it down, but it's still just going to fray. If you grab a lighter, usually whatever this is made of, nylon or something, the frayed part will melt, kind of stick together. And there we go. Not perfect, but it's not just going all around now. Okay, so we've got that. And again, we're putting on the jacket. And you can see, there you go. I'm left with this much work or room to work with. I probably could have cut it a little shorter, but didn't want to. Okay, good. So we've got this end all set. This end, well, there's nothing to get set. It is ready for soldering. My particular one, this would be like the back side, and I'll put some graphics up here. This would be like the back side of your computer. So the left 3 are going to be ground, black. The right 3 are going to be 5 volts, positive 5 volts, the red wire. And the bottom one, I think it's called pin 2, oddly enough. We're not going to do anything with. So if we look on this side here, the back side of this, I can take these 3 here, which in this case are going to be the ground. They're all the same. We're just going to wire them together. So I'm just going to squeeze them together. So when I go to solder the black wire on, it just does all 3. And the same on this side. Now, again, your connector might be different, and you want to be careful that you don't bend something too far that it pulls out of the holes and screws it up. So maybe when you go to order these, get an extra one or two in case you goof something up. That's what I did here. It worked out, so I went ahead making a second cable. I'm gonna put this in here to hold it. Now I'm trying to keep the keyed part on the Atari power supplies. There's a key on the top and there's no pin up there. And that's what I've got here. I've got the key, which I'm gripping onto with the clamp, and no pin, associated pin in that area. Now that's the top. And if I look from this side, as you can see the graphic on the screen, this would be, again, like the back of your Atari computer. And there's going to be ground on the left side and positive 5 volts on the right side. So as we flip this over and work on the back side of this connector, well, now it's going to be the opposite of the graphic that you're looking at. So this is going to be 5 volt red, and this is ground, the black. Let's get to soldering. Put on some safety glasses. Okay, so double check. I've got the jacket on here. And let's put the key up there. So again, let's see. Ground here is now on the right side. Let's go ahead. Let's see how I can get this clamp to work out for me. It's like acrobatics, soldering acrobatics. Oh, okay, good, lining up. Just gonna weave this in here. Your experience may vary. Your experience will absolutely vary. Hopefully still come out good. Okay, I don't know if you can hear my soldering station making noises as it regulates the volt or the temperature. Come on, go that way. Now you've got to get all three. Well, you don't have to get all three. Probably get away without doing all three, but then you're going to use the cable somewhere else if somebody tried to get away without doing all three and you used the one that they didn't use. So just solder all three on. Okay, let's see what we got. For me, there's too much bare wire, so I'm bending it back on itself to just solder it into itself. Okay. Let's see what we got. Looks good. So now I'm going to solder on the red wire. Of course, be careful how you handle things here because they will be hot. It was easy to get the black wire where I wanted it because it didn't have to fight with the other wire. Now I'm fighting to get this red wire right where I want it. Come on, you're gonna pop out. If I don't get it where I want it, it's just gonna pop out when I go to solder. Solder on the red wire. Oh, I should probably mention, as I said, I already made one of these adapters, so I know that the black wire and the red wire are indeed what I expect them to be, ground and 5 volts. You should use continuity tester or something to test your adapter, your connector, and your wires before you wire everything up. You just never know. Factory got it backwards or who knows. So I already did that on mine, on the first one. So be sure to check yours. Everything seems to be soldered up well. Okay, I want to make sure something isn't going to touch something and short. Cut those data wires down a little more in my case here. Okay, everything looks good. Use a magnifying glass or something if you have to. Use the camera on your smartphone to zoom in just to check everything before you plug it in. I can see mine is looking good. Let's put this together here. I'm gonna take a little more of the jacket off. Trying to get it to this crimping part here. Let's get this other half on. Now when you're holding all that together, go ahead and crimp this cable. this will help support the cable as it gets pulled on. It doesn't pull out your soldering job. Okay, I'm crimped down. Let's slide the jacket up that we didn't forget to put on. I'm not going to push it on all the way yet because now I want to test this. Let's do that. Okay, so I basically just made a USB extension cable, but what we're going to do is test the two ends. So typically, this USB-A end will be, this is down, and then that mates into here where the pins are on the top. So memory serves me, this left side is ground, so that means as it goes in together, this top right side should be ground. So let's find out. There we go. And then the right side of this USB connector here should correspond to this side. Yep. And we can test again to make sure nothing is shorted on the other wires. Nope, no short there. Okay. So how many tests do you have to do on the cables you make? Well, if they don't work, at least always one more, right? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and slide this on the rest of the way. Mine's a little snug, so I'm going to carefully try not to bend this, but it's off center a little bit there. There we go. Okay. My particular one has this little pin here that if you pull it up, that will catch the jacket from sliding off when you go to pull it out of something. So let's bring our Atari power supply back in here. Plug it in. Put that together. And let's see. Welcome. 5.06 volts, same as it was before. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and hook this up to the same game system I hooked up the other power cable to, which we're going to use in this case. And we're going to run the computer off of this power supply. Actually, the power supply is already connected to. And put this rigmarole in the middle of that. And we can see how many amps the computer is drawing and that it's working right. So let's hop over there. So last time we played some Bug Hunt, and I'm gonna shake it up and go over to Barnyard Blaster. Let's see, put that there. It's all working. And original music, right? So turn that off. I'm gonna unplug the regular Atari power supply that I have buried behind the TV somewhere. We're going to go ahead and put in our new adapter, our reverse USB power Atari thing adapter. So now we have USB out, and I guess you can charge your phone or something else. But no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to plug in our power tester. Okay. So this one is giving out 4.96 volts. So, that's within range. Then we're going to take this cable that we made in another video before. And we're going to plug that into the back of this Atari. We're all upside down. We're all goofed up here. And boom. So we've got our Atari power supply into the cable we just made this time. into a USB power tester off the internet into the USB cable, regular one, that we made last time. And we can see now with a load on this, it's not 4.96, now it's 4.84 volts. And it's drawing 0.66 amps. And this probably shouldn't have affected it at all. Let's see what it's doing. Yeah, 6.5 amps. Not bad. Okay, so we got proof of concept there. Now, let's go ahead. That's 0.66 amps it's drawing right now. And let's grab, where is it? I got FujiNet somewhere. Let's go ahead and plug in this FujiNet. And look at that. They designed it so it fits perfectly next to the power on this model. So just with the FujiNet plugged in, drawing power off this computer. Oh, look at that. 0.81 amps. 0.82, it varies. So we added 0.2 more amps about to the draw off the power supply. So now as you plug in more stuff into your Atari, and it doesn't have to be the XEGS, it can be any of them. Well, any of them that use 5 volts. And you can see how much your equipment is drawing for amps. Okay, so there we have it. With a few bucks in cables and adapters, you can make what we call, I guess could call the regular USB powered cable, and then the reverse one. I called it first, it's the reverse one. So with that and a USB tester in the middle, you can go ahead and test your Atari original power supply and your Atari computer, see what it's drawing under load and how many amps your accessories are drawing. So like you might have, I think like the power supply on that XEGS right now is 1 amp. So if I was drawing close to 1 amp with accessories, I'd probably want to get a bigger power supply, or just put your old power supply aside and use a newer one. As I've mentioned in the other video, these usually put out 2.4 amps. And with that, the only other thing I want to note is this is not for the Atari, the original Atari 400 and 800 and the 1200 XL. All those used 9 volt AC into the computer, so this won't work for those. But all the other Ataris, 600 XL, 800 XL, 65XE, 130XE, 800XE, XEGS, that should be all of them. All those use 5 volts with a round 7-pin connector, and this will work great with that. So until next time, thanks for watching, and of course, subscribe. If you don't like the video, go ahead and subscribe anyways. I'd love it. Thank you very much. Ciao.